Welcome to Roll Credits, where movie lovers get the trivia they didn't know they needed. This podcast was created with help from AI tools, so double-check any quotes before you drop trivia at your next movie night. Today, we're diving into the drama, and did you know many of Zendaya and Robert Pattinson's scenes were filmed in extended pace to capture real emotional reactions between them? And before we get into it, drop a comment and let us know what movie or show we should cover next, old or new.
I always love seeing what people want us to cover.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask you a question. Have you ever, looked at someone you love, maybe someone you're even about to marry, and realized you have absolutely no idea who they actually are?
Oh, man. Yeah, that is a terrifying thought.
Right. And I don't mean just discovering some quirky habit they kept hidden, like, I don't know, leaving the cap off the toothpaste. I mean a fundamental, earth-shattering revelation that just completely rewrites the history you thought you shared.
Like a total paradigm shift.
Exactly. It's like you think you're staring at a clear pane of glass, and then boom, in an instant it shatters. And you're just left holding the pieces, trying to figure out what picture they actually form, Wondering the person standing right in front of you is a total stranger.
It's an incredibly destabilizing concept because, we build these really comprehensive internal narratives around the people we love. We just assume we have the shared moral baseline and a mutual understanding of the world. And when that baseline unexpectedly drops out from under you, it's not just the relationship that fractures.
Right, it's everything.
Yeah, your own judgment, your memory, your entire reality is suddenly called into question.
And that profound sense of destabilization, that is exactly the core of what we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are exploring the drama, which is this highly anticipated romantic dark comedy directed by Christopher Bordley.
Which just hit theaters on April 3rd, 2026.
Yes, exactly. And it stars Robert Pattinson and Zendaya as Charlie and Emma. They play this engaged couple whose relationship faces just this absolute stress test that honestly, most people could never even fathom.
No, not at all.
So our mission today is to really peel back the layers of this film. We're going to look at the intensely deceptive marketing campaign, the really complex behind-the-scenes dynamics between the lead actors, and all that hidden symbolism crafted into the production design and soundscapes.
And, the way all these distinct elements work together to manipulate the viewer's expectations, that is really the true achievement of the film.
Yeah, totally.
Borgley doesn't just want to show you a couple falling apart. He actually wants to make you complicit in their unraveling by setting you up with the exact same false sense of security that Charlie experiences.
Which brings us to the marketing. Because they didn't just, market a movie. They built a literal Trojan horse out of wedding invitations and fake registries.
Oh, it was brilliant.
To really grasp the impact of the film, we have to look at the massive gap between what audiences thought they were walking into versus the actual dark reality of the plot.
Right, because A24 leaned entirely into this joyful, celebratory aesthetic.
They mailed out formal, embossed wedding invitations to their A24 members.
I know, I saw pictures of those online. And they took out a completely serious engagement announcement in the Boston Globe.
Yes, and they even built a fully functional RSVP portal. It was charlieandemmaforever.com, and it had engagement photos in the park and ceremony logistics.
It felt so incredibly safe.
They really did.
But by establishing that baseline of mundane, joyous reality, the psychological horror that follows just hits exponentially harder. You are invited to a celebration.
Yeah, you're expecting a rom-com.
Exactly. The initial premise we are handed is that Charlie, who is a head curator at a Cambridge art museum, and Emma, a literary editor, are just days away from their wedding in Boston.
And the first act is filled with typical pre-wedding chaos.
Right, tasting menus, writing vows, dealing with absurd inconveniences like, a wedding DJ smoking heroin out on the street.
Yeah, that scene was wild, but it disarms you.
Right, totally.
Then they go on this double date with their friends, Rachel, played by Lana Haim, and Mike, played by Mamadou Athie, and they hit the 20-minute mark of the film.
This is the turning point.
Right. They're playing this drunken, seemingly harmless game of what's the worst thing you've ever done. And Emma drops a confession that derails absolutely everything.
It is such a heavy moment.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, we need to be very clear here for the listener. We are strictly talking about the fictional narrative of the film. We are remaining completely neutral and impartially reporting on the plot provided by the script. We're not endorsing any viewpoints or taking sides regarding real-world politics or gun violence. We are just looking at the story in the movie.
Absolutely. We're just analyzing the text as it's presented to us on screen.
Right. So in the film, Emma admits that when she was 15 years old, she systematically plotted a mass school shooting. And the only reason she didn't follow through with it was because someone else committed a mass shooting on the exact same day, and she didn't want her act to be overshadowed.
It is just a staggering thing to hear in what you thought was a romantic comedy. Looking at this purely from a narrative and thematic standpoint within the fiction of the film, this confession serves as the ultimate grenade.
Oh, 100%.
The script introduces this deeply disturbing, violent ideation from a character's past specifically to force a crisis of empathy. Again, we are simply analyzing the story provided here, but within that construct, Emma's admission acts as the absolute limit of what Charlie and the viewer is asked to accept.
What's really fascinating to me is the reaction of the friend group in that moment. The sheer hypocrisy on display is just wild.
Oh yeah, the friends are awful.
Right. During that very same dinner game, Mike admits he once used his ex-girlfriend as a physical human shield to protect himself from an aggressive dog.
Just terrible.
And Rachel confesses she locked her neighbor, who had an intellectual disability, in an abandoned RV closet overnight just to see what would happen.
Both of which are objectively terrible, damaging actions.
Exactly. They are real actions with real victims. Yet Emma is the only one who is universally condemned by the table. Rachel actually calls her a psychopath right to her face.
The script really uses that dynamic to expose how people justify their own tangible transgressions while harshly judging the enacted upon thoughts of others.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The friends excuse their own past behavior by arguing that, well, a teenager's brain isn't fully developed. They frame their actions as just impulsive mistakes.
But they refuse to extend that same grace to Emma.
Exactly, because her ideation was calculated. They treat her past thoughts as this unforgivable, permanent stain, which is what forces Charlie into a moral spiral. Yeah. He has to decide if he is marrying the woman he knows today or the teenager she used to be.
I do have to push back a little bit on the studio's choices here, though. I mean, I have to question if the marketing campaign was actually a breach of trust with the audience.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, by intentionally hiding this deeply traumatic central conflict in the trailers, does the studio preserve the artistic shock value, or do they risk alienating a demographic who showed up specifically for the lighthearted rom-com they were promised?
I mean, I look at it a bit differently. If you look at Borgley's entire filmography, like Sick of Myself or Dream Scenario, it is all built on breaking social contracts.
True.
He loves exploring controversy without neat resolutions. If the marketing had hinted at the trauma, the audience would have been braced for impact. By withholding it, he ensures the viewer experiences the exact same sudden, disorienting shock that Charlie feels.
You're right. You really are ambushed at that dinner table right alongside him.
Yeah. It is a massive artistic gamble, sure, but it is totally necessary for that emotional alignment between the audience and the protagonist.
And because the film drops that twist so early, it places an enormous burden on the actors. I mean, the rest of the runtime is essentially a pressure cooker.
Oh, entirely.
If the audience doesn't believe in the underlying connection between Zendaya and Pattinson, the tension dissipates and the movie just fails.
The performances really have to sustain the intense heat generated by that 20-minute mark. And, Zendaya delivers a highly controlled, deeply layered performance.
She's incredible in it.
Emma is deeply insecure, but outwardly she's so restrained. She's almost pragmatic about her own darkness. And then Pattinson contrasts that by bringing this chaotic, unpredictable, and highly reactive energy to Charlie's unraveling.
It's so interesting to watch them. Watching them act together is like watching a kite and a tether.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like Pattinson is this chaotic, unpredictable kite whipping around in the wind, catching these wild updrafts of anxiety and threatening to just fly away entirely. And Zendaya is the tether. She provides the grounded force holding the scene, keeping the emotional reality from flying off into the stratosphere.
And that dynamic was very intentional, and it actually played out behind the scenes as well.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So during the extended takes for that pivotal dinner scene, Alana Haim noted that Pattinson would randomly throw out wild, unexpected acting choices. He absolutely refused to play the scene the same way twice.
Oh, wow. That must have been intense.
It was. It kept the rest of the cast completely off balance.
It's wild how life imitates art here, because apparently Pattinson's own anxiety on set mirrored Charlie's internal state.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah. He spent 3 entire days agonizing over the meaning of a single line of dialogue. He was writing pages of textual analysis, desperately looking for a hidden psychological subtext, and just driving himself into a spiral.
Classic Pattinson.
Right. And the night before they shot the scene, he called Zendaya and poured out all these doubts, for 2 hours.
2 hours on the phone.
2 hours. And Zendaya just listened to him. And eventually, she calmly explained that the line meant exactly what it said. There was no hidden meaning to uncover. Her pragmatism completely grounded him.
That is exactly the kite and tether dynamic you were talking about.
Exactly.
And Pattinson actually spoke about this off-screen working relationship at the LA premiere. He was wearing this amazing custom Dior salmon suit, by the way.
Oh, I saw photos of that. It was a great look.
Yeah. And he called the drama the darkest rom-com you could ever make. He admitted his tendency to confuse himself with overanalysis constantly bumped up against Borgly's clear directorial vision.
But it worked for the character, right?
Ultimately, yeah. That neurotic search for meaning served Charlie's journey perfectly. Charlie is the one reacting to the external world, spiraling into moral panic, while Emma remains surprisingly present.
She anchors him, even when she is the source of his terror.
Precisely.
But the tension they create isn't just carried by the dialogue. It is physically built into the curated environment where this relationship falls apart.
The apartment.
Yes. The setting itself acts as a silent, judging witness to their drama. They shot almost entirely on location, in an authentic 1800s Boston brownstone in the South End.
And the production designer, Zosia Mackenzie, she really treated the apartment as its own character.
She did an amazing job.
There is this stark visual contrast between the rich architectural history of the space, like the spiral staircases, the ornate period-specific molding, and the relationship that is just crumbling inside those walls.
The way she utilized the space and the lighting is incredibly deliberate.
So deliberate. Mackenzie relied heavily on naturalistic lighting, specifically utilizing these Isamu Noguchi Akari light sculptures.
Oh, the paper ones?
Yeah, exactly. These delicate ribbed paper lanterns that diffuse light in very specific ways. She used them to create a dramatic chiaroscuro ambiance.
Just to quickly define that for the listener, chiaroscuro is an art technique. It literally translates to light dark in Italian.
Right, yeah. You use a strong directional light to create high contrast pooling shadows.
Okay, got it.
So by employing this technique, Mackenzie visually traps the characters. They step out of the warm light of their curated public perfection, and they just disappear into the dark, pooling shadows of their private reality.
That's brilliant. And you can see that curation in the character-specific clutter, too.
Oh, the clutter is so good.
The apartment feels lived in, but highly intellectualized, you know. There are custom books designed specifically for Emma's job at the Fictional Mission Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
The refrigerator is covered in bespoke gallery posters and exhibition invites from Charlie's career as a curator.
But the most crucial piece of that production design, honestly, is the painting hanging directly above the mantle in the living room.
The oil painting, right?
Yeah, it's by Canadian artist Tristan Unrau, and it's titled Shambolic Figure.
I found the inspiration for that painting so fascinating when I was prepping for this deep dive. It's an homage to a specific scene from the 1989 animated film Daffy Duck's Quackbusters.
Which is such a random pull, but it works so well.
It really does.
Yeah.
There's a moment where Daffy sings to a group of classic monsters who are enjoying a night off in a club, and he croons the line, "Monsters lead such interesting lives."
It gives the viewer a glimpse into the mundane interiority of these villains.
Exactly. So placing that painting right at the center of Emma and Charlie's home is a massive thematic tell.
The concept that monsters lead interesting lives is emblematic of Emma's entire character arc. The film constantly challenges the audience with this difficult philosophical question.
Which is?
Is someone who was once capable of monstrous thoughts still worthy of compassion and mundane happiness? Can you separate the terrifying, violent ideation of a 15-year-old from the adult woman standing in your kitchen?
Which makes me wonder, are they just using all of this high-status aesthetic taste as a shield?
What do you mean?
Well, I look at this meticulously decorated mid-century modern apartment.
Yeah.
You know, the Knoll sofa, the Seska chairs, the carefully curated art. And I wonder if Charlie and Emma are using their intellectual clutter as a distraction.
Oh, to avoid dealing with the messy stuff.
Yeah, it seems like a way to avoid dealing with the ugly realities of their actual personal histories.
I think you are hitting on the tragedy of their living space right there. The apartment represents the idealized version of who they want to be. It is a fortress constructed out of good taste.
But aesthetic trends are superficial.
Exactly. As Mackenzie pointed out, when the truth comes out, the functional beauty of their furniture violently clashes with their inner turmoil. The apartment stops being a sanctuary and just becomes a beautifully decorated cage.
And while the apartment provides the physical arena for this meltdown, The camera work and the sound design act as the psychological trap.
Oh, absolutely.
You literally lock the viewer inside the characters' heads. The cinematography by Arseny Khachaturian is remarkably intimate and incredibly texture-rich.
Khachaturian uses these recurring, highly specific close-ups to really build that intimacy.
There is that one recurring shot of Zendaya's ear that really stands out.
Yes.
It highlights Emma's partial deafness, which is a subtle trait established early on. But Khachaturian frames the shot so the ear forms the shape of a half-heart.
It's such a beautiful visual motif.
It really is. It operates as this emphasis on Emma's desperate need for unconditional connection. Her need for someone else to, complete the picture and accept her wholly.
And then the editing, which was handled by Borgley alongside Joshua Raymond Lee, it amplifies that desperation by maintaining this uncomfortably taut pace.
Never lets up.
No, they blend the real-time stress of the days leading up to the wedding with Charlie's distorted, intrusive memories of Emma's confession.
And sometimes those disturbing mental images are just pinned to the absolute edge of the frame, right?
Exactly, barely caught in the viewer's peripheral vision. You are never allowed to fully focus on the trauma, but it is always looming just out of sight.
And the sound design takes that looming threat and makes it visceral.
Oh, the sound design is incredibly stressful.
They use classical violin bursts during these otherwise quiet domestic scenes, and they function almost like horror movie jump scares.
Yeah, you'll be watching a scene of two people simply drinking coffee, and suddenly a jarring, dissonant string pluck just shatters the silence.
It completely denies the audience any sense of safety. You are conditioned to feel a constant state of unease, just bracing for the next sonic impact.
And then there is the integration of Shira Small's song, I Want to Lay With You.
Oh, that broke my heart.
Emma plays it early in the film as a cheerful, romantic attempt to lift Charlie's spirits. But by the end of the film, when Charlie is sitting alone in the apartment after the wedding logistics have completely fallen apart, that exact same song plays again.
Only this time, it transforms into a deeply melancholic, devastating track.
The emotional memory the audience has attached to the audio completely changes its meaning. It is a brilliant example of audiovisual manipulation.
It's classical conditioning, basically.
Exactly. The director is using classical conditioning to alter how we perceive a piece of music based on the narrative context.
By utilizing these horror movie sound cues and manipulative audio tracks in what is ostensibly a romantic drama, the director is actively training the listener's nervous system to experience the exact same high-status anxiety that Charlie is feeling.
Because the intention is to move beyond passive viewing. The film doesn't want you to just observe Charlie's dilemma. It wants your body to simulate his physiological stress.
Right.
It forces you to feel the intense cognitive dissonance of loving someone deeply while being fundamentally terrified of what exists inside their head.
So when we pull all these pieces together, the misleading wedding marketing that disarms us, the brilliant contrasting performances, that meticulous set design acting as a cage, and the anxiety-inducing soundscape, the drama really forces us to confront a really messy reality about relationships.
It forces us to confront the psychological concept of double empathy.
Which is such an interesting term.
The production designer actually used this term to describe the film's goal, and it requires a bit of unpacking. Double empathy refers to the monumental struggle of trying to bridge two completely different phenomenological worlds.
Like trying to understand an alien language.
Sort of, yeah. It is the effort required to see reality through your partner's eyes, even when their past experiences or their internal logic are completely at odds with your own worldview.
Which requires an enormous leap of faith.
Yeah.
In interviews, both Pattinson and Zendaya talked about how the film asks if it is possible to separate a person's actions, or in this case their past thoughts, from their current identity.
Right.
It asks if you can forgive someone, even when you cannot justify or understand what they have done.
And Borgley refuses to provide a clean moral resolution to that question.
He really does leave you hanging.
He leaves the audience mid-argument in a parking lot. He forces you to sit with the discomfort of knowing that human beings are infinitely complex, and that unconditional love is much rarer and much harder to achieve than we like to pretend.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to mull over.
Oh.
We spent this time analyzing how a shocking secret can shatter a relationship, but let's look at the culture we live in.
Okay, where are we going with this?
Well, has our society's absolute obsession with true crime documentaries and dark psychological thrillers secretly conditioned us to actually expect the people we love to harbor terrifying secrets?
Oh, wow.
Are we so steeped in narratives of deception that we're actually complicit in our own paranoia? Like, are we waiting for the glass to break even when there are no cracks?
That is a fascinating point. It asks if we are projecting the monsters from our entertainment onto the mundane reality of our own lives.
It's a deeply unsettling question to take with you. And that wraps our deep dive into the drama. If you enjoyed exploring these intense performances and emotional storytelling, follow Roll Credits and share it with your fellow film fans. And don't forget to drop a comment with what movie or show we should cover next, old or new. We'll be back soon with more trivia, more movie magic, and maybe a few more unforgettable performances.